All right, welcome back. So we made some revisions and some adjustments since last time. This is an ongoing process. We're constantly refining what we're doing here. The first order of business is we changed the name. It's no longer a deep dive. It's now a quest because we thought it would be a little bit more appropriate to say that we are on a quest to find these perfect movies. And so we have renamed it the Perfect Movie Quest. And also, we decided that we will be counting the votes of all of the people in the Movie Men group, not just the people that show up for these discussions. So we've got some news based on our discussions since our last episode. We had the rest of the crew weigh in on whether or not First Night was a perfect movie. And unfortunately for Justin, it actually got voted out. It's voted no. We all loved the movie. We all had a good time watching it. But when all of the votes were cast, which we are now counting them as a whole, and I'll just splice it moving forward. Anybody that doesn't show up like Callum and Zane, I'll get their votes on my phone recorded, and I'll just splice them in to these videos. So everybody, like, we can see in real time in the same video, everybody's vote. So those are adjustments. Yeah.
I think it's important to comment though that we hashed this out amongst ourselves for hours after the initial. And so what we're going to do again this time is this is the time where you present and we kind of discuss the first impressions, and then all next week and until the next Movie Men podcast, we're going to deep dive and you're going to make your case, and you're going to continue to make your case up until all the votes are in, and you're going to convince the people that aren't here too.
Yeah, great point. So this is going to be the main focal point because this is like the discussion and we want to incentivize everybody to show up. But yeah, like you said, Justin, there was so much discussion about First Night. Holy smokes, we went into the historical accuracy and how that plays into it being a perfect movie, all the components. It was incredible. And it would have been like a 6-hour YouTube video. So, okay. So let's get started. So this is this week we're going to be questing for a perfect movie that I chose, which is a movie called Life Itself. Now, if you're anything like me, you'd never heard of this movie before. As a matter of fact, I was introduced to this movie when I was dating my wife. We were at Lake Powell. I was telling my family that she's not a movie person, and they were all kind of razzing her and getting on her case and all this stuff. And she's like, well, I like movies. I watched a movie the other day that was really good. I don't remember what it's called, but we should watch it. I'm like, yeah, find it. Who's in it? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, when was it made? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, what was it about? And she's like, really hard to explain. And I was like, how are we going to find this movie? And so she literally Googled on her phone, she Googled a movie about a bunch of people that their lives intertwine. It was like some very specific Google search, and just so happened to pop up Life Itself. And I was like, oh, no way. That's got like Oscar Isaac. It's got Olivia Wilde. It's got the Inigo Montoya. It's got Antonio Banderas. I'm like, this is like an all-star cast. How have I never heard of this movie? And this was back when I was single, when I'd go see every single movie that came out in theaters. And so I was like, how did this one fly under the radar? Holy smokes. I should have heard about it from somewhere. And I'm like, it's probably a crappy movie. That's why I haven't heard of it. But I'll give it a watch because Natalie sat through all my Rocky and Rambo and like all my movies that I love. So I'll sit through this one with her. So we sat through Life Itself for the first time, and my socks were blown off, to say the least. My head nearly exploded. I was like, this is like intellectually stimulating. It's well paced. It's super long, but it doesn't feel long because everybody gave their all. Like, the acting was top tier, the cinematography was top tier, the story I thought was super compelling. And again, all-star cast. Like, I know these people, I felt familiar with it, and then the premise and like how everything intertwined. And I've always liked movies that, I showed this movie to Drew and his wife, and I remember her feedback after watching it was what dinged the movie for her, and correct me if I'm wrong, Drew, if I'm remembering this wrong, but she said she didn't like it because it's just too unrealistic. Like, all those coincidences happening and like being wrapped up like in a nice pretty bow at the end, like that's just not, like, it's not believable. Her suspension of disbelief could only take her so far. And so, fair point. And like, she has her opinion, and this is subjective, of course, but I've been thinking about that this time watching it through. And I don't know, I've always, you know, you guys know me, my policy is give a movie as much grace as I possibly can, try to enjoy it, give myself to the movie, try to receive what, like, the message, the story, in the way that the movie packages it. And that for me makes for a very enjoyable watching experience. And so as I was giving this movie grace this last time, thinking about what Drew's wife said, I think it's just a taste thing, because I love movies like this. I love movies where there's so many different characters and you don't know how they're connected, and then eventually at the end it kind of wraps it up in like this beautiful package where everything comes together. So movies like for example, like Crazy Stupid Love, one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. It does that very well. You guys remember the movie Vantage Point with Dennis Quaid way back in the day? That was kind of cool, you know, different perspectives telling different stories. Same thing with like The Last Duel with, you know, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. That was a cool. The Gentleman is another great example of all these different characters like doing their own thing throughout the movie, and then finally at the end it all wraps up. Like, I like movies like that. I like movies that have complexity and different characters, and it keeps you guessing, and the story moves along and you don't know exactly where it's going, and then finally it presents itself at the end as like this beautiful grand finale. I like that. So it is just kind of a preference thing. So I think this movie is perfect for a few reasons. Let me just rattle these off real quick. And without even looking at the criteria for a perfect movie, let me just tell you why I love this movie so much. One, it illustrates passion, like better than, I don't know, any other movie I can think about in so many different areas. So for example, you've got at the very beginning, you've got the passion of Oscar Isaac's character and how in love he is with Abby, you know, Olivia Wilde's character. Like, my favorite scene in the movie is when it's at the Halloween party and he's sitting on the porch and she's like, "You gonna ask me out?" And he's like, "I'm thinking about it." And she's like, "All right," you know, and like doesn't think anything of it. And then he goes into this monologue that is like so deep and so passionate and so heartfelt, and just like he lays it all on the line right in front of her, where he's like, "I know when I ask you out that my life will never be the same. I will never love the same. I will never live the same. I will never wake up the same." Like, that scene was just like, it encapsulated so much passion that this guy had for this girl. So much so that he was so in love with her without even dating her. He just knew her. They were friends, and he was saving like the perfect moment. And that passion was encapsulated so perfectly, and then ultimately culminates in him taking his own life, which again is just an act of passion. I like the passion of Olivia Wilde's character, Abby, where she's so passionate about Bob Dylan, even when Oscar Isaac's character is kind of shoulder shrugging, like whatever about it. Like, she just wants, like, she's relentless with it. And she talks about Bob Dylan's album and like how it revolutionized the music industry and how it changed her life and all these different things. Like, that passion was really cool. You go over to, you know, the Olive Grove and that story arc, and you've got Javier's passion, where he's whistling for the men, but he won't whistle for Antonio Banderas. You've got Antonio Banderas' passion, which is like he's trying to build this legacy in like as an insult to his father or whatever. Like, there was passion there. And then like how much he falls in love with Javier's wife, and as uncomfortable as that is, and as like unpredictable and messy as that is, he's just so passionate about like her and her son. And Javier, like, he's passionate about her as well when they first fall in love, and everything's beautiful. But then the kid has the accident and he's got these mental issues. And so anyways, just passion. The mother's passion for her son at the end, that talk that she gives him. It's just so much passion in this movie. This movie is dripping with passion. And I love that. It makes me feel something, you know? Now, that being said, and I like that it's intellectually stimulating. Like, her whole thesis on life itself, on the unpredictable narrator or the predictable narrator, that was like intellectually stimulating, really got me thinking. I know some people might write it off as a bunch of like hogwash gobbledygook, but if you actually listen and follow along, it makes sense. It like, and I love that at the very end, the granddaughter said she like got a C+ on the thesis paper. Like, it wasn't even good. She didn't even get a good grade, but that's what drove her passion. And I love how much passion's in this movie. All right, I'm going to wrap up with what I think might be arguments against its perfection, and I'm more than happy to discuss these further. But just personally, I don't like. So this movie felt like it was written by like you know, a liberal feminist living in Hollywood. It wasn't. It was actually written by the director, Dan Fogelman, and again, very well written. But the reason I say that is because it relies so heavily on like therapy, which I think, me personally, my personal views is therapy does more damage than it does good in the general, like, our over therapied society. Like, less therapy, please. But notice like at the beginning, Oscar Isaac's character is trying to heal through therapy, and then like when Javier's son needs help and they need money from Antonio Banderas to get him the help, like the help that he needs, apparently therapy just cured him. Like that's what cured him. And I'm like, I'm not sure that's how therapy works, but maybe sometimes. So again, I didn't like it, but that doesn't diminish its perfection, because I don't like a lot of things about a lot of movies that I actually like. And if it falls along, like if it falls in with the story and it doesn't deviate and it's not over, like overly, heavy-handed, that's what it is. It's not like heavy-handed or pandering or like, you know what I mean? And so it like tied in with the story, and that's why I think it doesn't diminish the perfection. And also, some people might get annoyed by the tone of the movie, how it's like it's almost written too well. Like the dialogue, like that scene with the grandpa and Dylan, where she's sitting on the bed and she's like, "Are you gonna die?" And like that whole dialogue where they like what he was thinking was this, but what he really said was that. Some people might get annoyed with that writing. I like it. I think it's creative. I think it's clever. I think it's smart. I think it's intelligent. It makes the movie interesting. Like it's hard to make dramas interesting. And so even like at the beginning when he's splicing in Samuel L. Jackson and he's talking about like writing the story, and you see him in the coffee shop and he's just so miserable, but then he goes to therapy and they're like revisiting his life, like some sort of Christmas Carol, Ghost of Christmas Past sort of scene. Like it just works. It moves the story along. It's good storytelling and it's entertaining. And the ups and downs are incredible. His passion for Abby, and then he shoots himself when she dies. Javier's passion for his wife, and then he leaves when things get hairy. Like there's just these ups and downs, and life itself truly is the unpredictable narrator. It really is. Or actually, I think her thesis was life itself is the only predictable narrator, because the only thing you can predict is its unpredictability. So anyway, those were the qualms that I had. And again, even people who are annoyed with the way that it's writing and kind of the tone, I think I like it because in high school, I was friends with all the thespians. I really liked the drama kids. I just never hung out with them, and I wasn't a drama kid myself, but I like kind of the bombastic, overly loud personality. And like, there's always super nice and super creative, and they're like clever with their writing and stuff. And I like those people, even though they aren't my people. I like those people. And so those people gave us this movie, and therefore I like the movie, and I think it is perfect. All right. Those are my points. I think those are all my points. If any others come to mind, I'll let you guys know in the rebuttals. But let's go around, and like Justin said, let's go through each one of us. Couple minutes. Give me your first impression. Was it perfect? Was it not? Chase, go ahead.
Just point of clarity. It's the unreliable narrator.
Thank you, Chase.
Not unpredictable, unreliable.
So. Unreliable. Sorry. Yeah, slip up of words. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Chase, let's have you go.
Okay. Sounds good. So I hated it. It was, and not in that way. I hated it for the emotions and the rawness of how real it was. So I very much appreciated what it was. It was a lot. And it was quite the sucker punch. Watching it again, I went in with no expectations. I mean, other than seeing like before I hit play, seeing the banner and seeing, oh, Oscar Isaacs is in it, and then going in and then just seeing him reliving his life through his depression, and then yeah, it was that suicide that was kind of pretty like explosive, unexpected, right? Because he's like I gotta get out of here, we're done, and she's like, no, it's okay, and he goes boom, and you're like, whoa, all right, okay. So yeah, that was so it was, man, it drew a lot out of me. And then you go into the story of the olive oil, and and just that fine delicacy that Javier had with how much care and attention he paid to the olives was a really good story. And you know, I think the movie did a really good job of just showcasing that. And that was part of Abby's thesis, was that life is unpredictable and you don't know how it's going to go, and you're going to have the ups and downs. And this is also the same conversation that the mom had with Rodrigo at the end, where you're going to have your ups and downs, and the only thing you can do is just keep pushing forward and just keep pushing forward. And so it was really interesting to see how it all played out kind of independently, and then at the end kind of coalesced. I will say, and again, not that big of a thing, but one of my critiques is that Rodrigo was 8 years older than what was her name, the little girl, but then at the end when they met, it seemed like they were peers, because she was 21. Yeah, thank you, Dylan. She was 21 because she had just had her first drink with her grandfather, and he was in college. And I know he delayed a little bit, but it made it seem like he might have been like 23, 24, when in reality he would have been 30. If she was 21, he would have been 29 or 30, because he was like an 8-year-old when the accident happened, and she was the baby who came out of that accident. Again, I can give it grace. I can say, you know what, like, whether it was intentional or unintentional, it was just something I noticed where I was like, oh, their ages aren't where they should be. Again, minor. But yeah, it was a powerful movie. Now, as I go through, I don't know, right? As I go through the perfect movie criteria, I go, could I watch it again? No, not anytime soon. And especially not with Stacy and where she is in her life. I'm like, I might be able to revisit it in like a year or 2 or 3. Does it discount that it's a bad movie? No, like, good movie, but I think it's kind of one of those heavy movies like your Saving Private Ryan, Hacksaw Ridge, right, where it's a really good movie, but it's not one where I saw it today, I can go and see it in 3 months. Right, it doesn't have that repeatability that some other movies have. I don't consider that a huge knock, because again, there are other movies that just have that power and gravitas that I could say. Besides that, you know, not really requotable, but I don't think that this movie was meant to be like super requotable. But I think what it did, where it really glowed, glistened, really did its thing, was the acting was phenomenal. Every actor acted the crap out of their part, which was good. I think the writing was really well done, about how Abby was trying to, right, kind of bridge this gap, and even the motifs of how that Bob Dylan album from, what was it, 97, 98, whenever it was, where they were like they were making a mention where every song was this melancholy, you know, tragedy song, and then in the middle is this love song. And I think that kind of highlights the motif of the movie of life. A lot of times sucks quite a bit, but then you can find the good in everything. You can find the love in everything. You can find the positive, if you're looking for it. And so, you know, and again, they mentioned that the critics thought it ruined the album, blah, 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 but really it was a redefining. And then I think the last point I'll make that I think gave it just tremendous high marks was, did I feel something? Oh, absolutely I did. This was a very emotional and again, I feel like very raw movie, in especially those very intense scenes of just saying, hey, this is life. Like, life sucks a lot sometimes, and find the good. But anyways, so those are my thoughts. So, but wanted to we're getting to the vote at the end, right? We'll all talk, and because I might change my vote based on others' feedback, but yeah. Anyways, those are my thoughts as of right now.
All right, Alan, let's have you go next.
All right. Yeah, I'm a little surprised at Chase's analysis. And the reason I'm surprised is one, Bo did something very smart introducing this movie to us, because none of us had seen it before. And so he gave us one expectation spoiler, which I really appreciated, which was, it's a drama movie. Put yourself in the mindset of it being a drama going into it if this is your first time viewing it. And I did. And I went into it with that perspective, and that kind of helped set the stage for me. I disagree with you that it's not rewatchable. There are so many things, like there are a lot of things that happen in that movie that made me want to watch it again, especially like the screenplay that Oscar Isaac's character that he wrote at the beginning, which was a parody of the trauma that he was experiencing, right? And so you don't get that in the beginning. You have to, like, it draws you into it, and it makes you think about it later on in the film when it starts to be revealed that is his life that he was just trying to capture and try to cope with. But then going back and watching it again, I think would add just another level of appreciation and depth to the character. And so the movie did that several times. I felt like there were a lot of moments in that movie that made me want to go back and watch it again. Bo mentioned, or I think both of you mentioned, the grandfather and the daughter exchange on the bed, and that was writing, that was wonderful writing. If Bo kind of saw it as, some that might be off-putting to some people, but I thought it was brilliantly executed and brilliantly written. And from a requotable perspective, the movie didn't have catchy one-liners, but it had very intellectual, very drawn out, very specific, I think, that are very quotable lines. The scene that Bo mentioned, when he's on the steps, when he says, Bo said it well, but he didn't perfectly requote it. Dude, if you could requote that, that's like top level. I want to be that kind of passionate towards my own wife. All right. So I just wanted to offer a couple of counterpoints. I felt that it was quotable, requotable, and I felt that it was rewatchable, and I felt that it met excuse me, met the intent, and it met many other criteria that Chase kind of already went through. Okay, I'm going to tangent for just a moment, but it'll come full circle in a sec. I grew up with these Darlington boys, and when we would go to the movies, man, we would come out of that movie and we would try to rehash that entire movie. Coming, like, our drive home, we would quote as many lines as we could. We'd get home, we would reenact the action sequences, we would get out our action figures, and we would make the movie again because we were that engrossed in whatever movie it was that we went and saw. I didn't realize until I started dating Becky that this is not normal. Becky and I went to a movie, and we get out of the movie, and I'm like, I want to talk about it. We're gonna dig in deep. I want to do some requotes. I want to re-sing the songs from Phantom of the Opera or whatever it was, right? And so I'd ask her about it, and she's like, yeah, it was pretty cool. And then she would move on to something else. I'm like, what is happening here? Don't you want to talk about this movie a ton? And that's just not the way Becky is. So I had to kind of learn to adjust to that. Now, I say all that as a preface. I watched this movie with Becky for the first time, both of us. Neither of us had watched it. I gave Becky the same expectation spoiler that Bo gave us. I said, it's a drama, so it'll probably be a little bit heavier. And it's also written by the same guy that did This Is Us. It's a TV series. And Becky watched that TV series. And so I was like, that's probably going to be the same vibe. And it was. And we watched the movie. Had all the same emotions that we've already been kind of talking about. We experienced that together. It was really great. It was fun in the sense that, you're experiencing, like, it's that trauma bonding experience. That's what it was. The movie was over, and we talked about it for a minute, about as much as I would have expected from Becky. And then the next day, we went to like Costco or something. We were driving around, and she says to me, kind of just out of the blue, she's like, "Man, that guy was wrong." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, Javier, like he just made bad choices. He could have had everything that he wanted." And then she starts going on like this analysis of the character. And she's like, "It's been bothering me. I've been thinking about this all night." And I was like, this never happens with Becky. And so it was super awesome to kind of have that moment. So does it meet the girlfriend factor? In my family, it absolutely did. And I would say that this, like, even if somebody in my close circle had not seen this, I would probably watch it again today. I don't think I would. I am not. It's not the same gravitas as like Saving Private Ryan, where I can only watch that movie like once every 5 years because it just hurts me to watch it. This movie had heavy elements to it, but man, I think it was a lot more enjoyable than it was hurtful. I have 2 issues and I'll be done. The first issue, we've talked a lot about child actors, not necessarily on this particular channel, but personally, individually, on our Marco Polo chats, we talk about child actors. I did not like Rodrigo as a boy. I think that child actor, he's an overactor. The worst violation that he did was when Antonio Banderas' character gave him the little globe, and then he was talking about places they could go around the world, and then his dad comes in and takes it away, and he like flips out, like yelling, like screeching yelling, and I was like, that seems like an overreaction. and I feel like the director just said, "Hey, you're gonna be upset, and then he did, and it was a little bit too much. And that was kind of the tone that I got from the child actor that played him. Now, I would give him a pass, except that the other child actors in the film did phenomenal. The child version of Dylan, especially that exchange that Bo mentioned where Grandpa Manny Patinkin and Manny Patinkin and the girl had that little exchange where she said what she actually said, and then she said what she meant, and then it was a child actor that delivered that. And I thought that was brilliant and very well executed from a child actor. So I don't give as much of a pass to Rodrigo because I know they could have done it, and I know the director had a vision for it. And the second issue I had, and I'll be done, is Olivia Wilde being pregnant. That pregnant suit, I mean, it legitimately pulled me out of the moment for a minute, where her belly was wider than her hips. I mean, I get she's a tiny lady. She's not a big lady, but we all know, we've all been married to women who have been pregnant. Like, the boobs get bigger, like they widen up in their hips. I'm like, Hollywood knows this. They have, pregnancy suits that make themselves actually fill out. But I feel like all they did is stuff a pillow underneath their shirt and be like, all right, just pretend you're pregnant. It's only for a minute. And it kind of bothered me a little bit. So those are my 2 issues, and I'm being really nitpicky. I think those are really nitpicky. So otherwise, my biggest takeaway was the girlfriend factor, and my exchange with Becky was kind of groundbreaking for me in the movie making. And with that, I will cede the rest of my time.
We've been talking about Civil War. You got seceding on your mind. Awesome, Al. Do I respond between each of these, or do we go through all of them and then I respond to all? Because
it's
going.
It's Brownie next, and then Drew and me, and then we can all talk about like specifics.
All right, I'm taking notes then. Go ahead, Brownie.
All right. I, like Alan, raw dogged this movie. I hadn't seen a trailer. I didn't read anything about it. I just went in and yeah, it took me on a journey for sure. It was good. I'll go through my pros and cons, and we're saving for the vote for after, correct? Okay. Start with my pros here. I thought I really liked how they linked all the lives together. I thought that was really cool. Typically as I watch movies, I'll try to predict where they're going to take it and how they're going to link everybody together, etc. And this one I couldn't figure it out. So it was a nice surprise. Acting was great. Dialogue was great. Yeah, I mean, when you have an all-star cast like that, how could you not, have great acting? But with that being said, that does lead into my con of I do feel like I was in this movie for the actors because I knew there was a lot of really good actors in there. In my opinion, I do agree with Chase. I don't know if I would rewatch this movie anytime soon, even if there was somebody who hadn't seen it. I don't know. I think I would say, yeah, I hope you enjoy the movie. It for me, it was heavy. There's a lot of stuff in there that felt really heavy. And I know, Bo, you're saying that especially Oscar Isaac, he was really passionate. In my opinion, his passion for her was almost a little bit creepy. Jeffrey Dahmer was also passionate about what he does. That doesn't make it okay. So his felt a little bit manipulative, a little bit creepy, and that's the vibe I was picking up. I unfortunately did have to break up this movie, not by choice, just by it was just getting late. So one of the things I did notice is the first night that I started watching it, I felt like it was really good. It was a surprise. But the next day, as it came, and I knew I was going to have to finish the movie, I don't know if I was really super excited to go in and go finish the movie. And that for me was a big deal. Now, with that being said, I did notice after I finished the movie that I have thought about that movie often throughout the day. So maybe that is telling. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my experience with the movie. Yeah, it was a good one-timer for me. That's all I got. I'm short-winded tonight.
That's perfect, Brownie. Appreciate that. Let's have Justin go next, and then Drew.
Okay. So Life Itself is about Roger Ebert and his life in the movie industry. It was in 2014. Came out. It was rated R. I was kind of surprised about that. And this is actually a real movie. I didn't know that we would be watching that. And if you can't tell, I'm being an unreliable narrator right now. Mind blown. There is actually a movie called Life Itself by Roger Ebert, and that's what the first one I looked up. I'm like, this is weird. I don't think that's it. So I did like that aspect of the movie, especially the first part where Samuel L. Jackson, and then you have this gay guy, and then you realize, oh no, he's just talking about fantasy football. And when the Annette Bening turns around to the bus, I'm saying to myself, you're not paying attention to the road. I mean, any of you have little kids right now. I mean, you're constantly, I'm like, look at the road, don't look at the person. And of course she gets hit by the bus. And I'm like, okay, it's an unreliable narrative. And then her brains are out on the, on the concrete, like, oh, that's kind of morbid. And then it sucks, he throws away the story and he's in the cut. So the buildup of the first act was spectacular up until the point where he blows his brains out. And then instead of it cutting to what really happened, you've been accustomed to this, it pauses for 10, 20 seconds. And it lets you know that this is the end of the act. And it's no longer a bunch of stories that, like, that was the real thing, the ending. And unfortunately for me, that's where the movie also died. And it's probably because the way my dad went out of this world. He was seeing a therapist and they gave him the wrong drugs and he did something very similar. So that's, you know, life itself is it's very interesting, but I kind of had to push past that. But as the movie went on, I felt like the Mandy Patinkin, it went back up. And for the record, I got to watch this in one day, but it was Act 1 at work and then Act 2 and 3, or however, I finished it that night. So every subsequent act, sorry, it's not working. It just kept going down, down, down for me. And I can't really put my finger on it, except for that the first act was such a big roller coaster of emotions that it never hit that beat for me again. It not wasted it, but it was such a traumatic first act that I was waiting for something even more punchier, and it never arrived. And so when we really slow down in the Olive Grove, and then he becomes a deadbeat dad again, and the stepdad that's not really a dad steps in, I was like, okay, so another man that actually can't fulfill his manly duties is in this movie. And then the third guy, Rodrigo, when he's in college, he's just like, yeah, this girl just keeps following me around and I just want to dump her. Okay, so I was like, what? Only Mandy Patinkin kind of carried this movie for me. And that was kind of in the middle. It did hit me in the feels. I was at work and it was like 4 or 5 o'clock. I was alone upstairs. And when Abby gets hit by the bus, because you know it was coming at that point, when you realized, I literally said SHIT out loud. Like visceral. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh shit, you know, and that it happened. So it definitely was, I was into it. But I really liked what you said about passion. Yes, this is a passion movie. That kind of puts the pin on it. And this is definitely Oscar bait. I would say it's an Oscar bait movie. It was meant to be a lot of great performances. Instead of saying requote, re-dialogue. It's a dialogue movie. Okay. Remote drop. Unfortunately for me, no. Good story. Yes, for the most part. Again, it trailed off. Was I impressed? Act 1. Yes. Subsequent acts, not so much. Was I moved? Absolutely. And was it entertaining? And I know entertaining for a drama is a different beast, but I'd have to only give it about a half. So those are my initial thoughts.
All right, Drew, take it away.
Oh, I'm so excited. So when you first mentioned this, Bill, I had the opposite reaction to when Justin said that Justin announced his movie. I was like, oh no. And it's because I've seen this movie before. And I was like, I remember the first time I watched it, we all sat down, we watched it, and it was like, it was good. And so when you mentioned it, I was like, you think that's a perfect movie? Like, man, you are really stretching. And then I watched it just by a show of hands. Who's watched it for the first time? Justin, Alan. Oh, okay. So just me and Bill had watched it more than once. I highly, 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 highly recommend in the next month or so, go back and watch it. And I know that that's kind of a big ask, but you will then, you cannot deny that it's a perfect movie if you rewatch it. It's incredible. Really quick, I wanted to mention, I made a couple notes. You said like Brownie said Oscar Isaac's character was like bordering on creepy. And I would argue he was just passionate. And we don't know what other kind of mental issues he had since this was so big on kind of therapy. Maybe he has ADHD. Who knows? I was there for it. I thought that he was just so in love with Olivia Wilde that he couldn't contain it, and so it was endearing to me. Like all of the scenes that they were in captivated me, and I was like, yeah, it's a little creepy, and it's like, hey, reel it in a little bit. But then on the other hand, it's like he just loves her so much. He loves her so much, and he's so scared of losing her. And look what happened when he actually did. He created these wild stories in his head just to cope with what actually happened. It was infectious. His passion was infectious. I can't remember if it was Brownie or Justin said that it was hard to watch, like, or you watched it in snippets and you think that was a bad thing. That's actually one of my, that's actually one of my, one of my favorite things about it is it's in chapters. So you can literally stop it at every chapter if you want, and then come back and pick it right back up. So you don't need to watch it start to finish. You definitely get a better experience if you do that. But it was almost like the director was thinking, I know this is heavy. You can break it up in these chapters. I'll break it up for you so that you can decide when you want to come back to it. Justin was talking about how he thought it was a steady decline in the story, and I think that it was the opposite. I think that it was a steady incline right to the peak, especially with Rodrigo, because he was alone. He had his running outlet, and when he was dating the girl, every audience member wanted him to break up. Every audience member was sitting there like tapping their foot, like, man, this chick is annoying, especially with the April Fool's joke. Like, you're like, it's not funny. She was cute before she started talking. And so they gave you like this premise of Rodrigo's dating this really cute girl and he's talking to his mom and she's like, oh, she's big, but she talks a lot. And you're like, oh, but she's cute. Like, she's hot. She's this hot college girl. And then she starts talking. And now all of a sudden you understand what Rodrigo's feeling. And you're like, man, she talks a lot. Let's get rid of this. Why is this character in here? Well, the character's in there so that we can feel like Rodrigo. And so I really loved Rodrigo's whole story. Oh my goodness. There's so much to get through. All right. The notes, I got a couple notes from when Bo announced it or when just watching it. The script was amazing. Dialogue was amazing. The presentation of the monologues was amazing. Like the way that, when you talk about perfect writing in a movie, we need to point at this one. Just the script itself. Not the script itself. The script that was delivered to us from those actors, from this all-star cast, was just phenomenal. That I had a grown man sitting in his office crying, just pouring tears, and I'm like, I have a foot on the door because I don't want my kids to walk in just randomly because I'm bawling. I'm ugly crying, and I don't do that very often. And my one critique with this movie is, if anybody's seen This Is Us, it's basically a 2-hour version of that. But here's my caveat is, while This Is Us drones on and on and on for another 15 seasons because it's just a cash grab at this point, it will disappear in obscurity while this movie stands tall, because this was just a concise, compact story that we all wanted, that we all felt something and want to revisit. The whole movie just encapsulates, like Bo said, passion. I think that's it. I really only had one critique. Once again, please go rewatch this. It is so much better the second time you watch it. You find, I promise it's so much better the second time. The first time, it's heavy. It's a heavy movie, and it's supposed to be. But now that you know that these things are coming, it's a lot easier to digest. And then you can start noticing other little idiosyncrasies that he throws in, other mirroring effects that he throws in. One, for example, that I'm sure that none of you guys will remember except for Bo, is while Javier and his wife are in the casita and they're like having fun and he's like holding up his son, and Antonio Banderas walks past the window, looks inside, and we all understand without him saying a thing, we all understand that he's like, I don't care about money. I don't care about my orchard. I don't care about any. I want that. That's what I want. And that's what drove his passion into kind of wedging his way into that family. And then about 30 minutes later, after like he's kind of infiltrated, I guess it didn't feel that way, but once he was in that, once Antonio Banderas was in the family, Javier walks past the same window and looks inside and sees his own family happy with Antonio Banderas. And just the way that was filmed got me all sorts of choked up. And I was like, man, I was applauding at my television. I was like, what a brilliant move to encapsulate what Javier was feeling in order for him to hand his family over to this other man that he knows will be able to provide for them the way that he cannot. And I was ready to come on here after Bo announced and just pick it apart like you guys did with First Night. I was ready to just not give it an inch, and I couldn't out myself, which is just another nod to me that it's a perfect movie. I watched it and I was like, I can't sit here and tell myself that I don't like that I don't love that movie and it's not a perfect movie.
All right. So we've all been around, said our little piece. Let me reply. I've taken some notes and I can do this in less than 3 minutes. I'm just going to reply to everything. And then whoever wants to take it from there, go ahead. Drew, I love that you just brought that up. I literally wrote, before you said that, rewatch this is Drew's advice. And I said, yes, it's one of those movies that you find new things every time you watch it, such as Javier looking in the window. That's something I noticed this time, my third time watching it. I didn't notice the first 2 times. But yeah, that like reflective scene of now the roles had been reversed. I noticed that this time. A couple other things. Javier, when he's like, look me in the eyes and say that I provide everything that you need from me. And she does not break eye contact and says, you have everything I need from me. Like that was so, I didn't notice that the first time I watched it. I might have had tears in my eyes or something, but the second time I watched it, I noticed that. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like how many movies, including First Night, how many movies have we seen a situation exactly like that where the woman breaks eye contact or the guy breaks eye contact and it's like telling to the audience, oh no, they aren't really in love. She didn't. She like maintained and looked him straight in the eye, like looked him harder in the eye. Like she was passionate about his role as husband and father. Passion. So much passion in the movie. It's incredible. And then the second time I watched it, I didn't realize the first time how perfectly Olivia Wilde's ranting about her thesis tied in with the overarching theme of the movie the first time. Like there's just so much going on the first time you watch the movie. So yeah, I agree, Drew. It gets better. And again, isn't that one of the criteria of a perfect movie? Like, and not all perfect movies have to be like this, but if a movie is like this, that's like a push in the right direction. That's a push towards perfection. If you can rewatch it and find new things, that's literally what made me think of the idea of what is a perfect movie was The Dark Knight. And what put that idea in my head was every time I watch this movie, I find something new that I didn't notice before. It's so cool. So anyway, all right, I think I've got like 1.5 minutes. Here we go. So Alan, child actor. Actually, I didn't notice that until you brought it up. And all I have to say is, have you ever met Drew's daughter, Millie? Second, Olivia Wilde being pregnant in the pregnancy suit just didn't look good. 1-word answer, not 1 word, 4-word answer, however many words this is. Have you seen my wife? She's 8 months pregnant. She looks like she's wearing a pregnant suit. Nothing on her body, I hate to brag, but nothing on her body has changed except her belly. And so don't think that that's really a knock because it could be spun as realistic depending on the girl. Again, not to toot my own horn, but my life has got it going on. Okay, Brownie, not rewatchable because it's too heavy. I tried to warn you, man. I said it's a drama. Put your head in the put yourself in the headspace of a drama. I also said it's rated R, so don't pull your kids in, which I was hoping would lead your expectations to not be like absolutely jaw on the floor when you see the girl's brains spilling out or him shooting his head into the therapist. I tried to warn you. I know it's heavy, and I apologize. Oscar Isaac, a bit too creepy. I'm with Drew. I think that was just passion, and I think that passion spills over into creepiness. And also the alternate stories he was telling, the alternate versions of his story that he kept rewriting in his head, I thought was just perfect. Like, it's really good writing. It's really good storytelling. And so I understand it though. But I think some of those scenes where she wasn't into it, I think that kind of spilled over into, oh, is he being creepy? When really I think it was just him reflecting and not knowing how he could have done things better, and, you know, all the regrets and everything else. Okay, real quick, Justin's. Oh, and Brownie, you weren't very excited to finish the movie. All I have to say is, I'm sorry. I don't know. What's a good rebuttal to that? I don't know. Okay, Justin. Dude, I feel like I find out more about your personal life in the worst ways possible. I'm like, oh, like you've had a history with, you know, depression and suicide and all this stuff in your family. Sorry. I don't know. This stuff always sneaks up on me, and I'm just like, boy, insensitive. I don't know. But how would I have found that out? Ask you about it, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so sorry about that. Yeah, I totally understand how that could trigger some nasty feelings, obviously. However, I would say that a happy ending, not necessarily to the movie, but to each chapter, a happy ending is not one of the criteria for a perfect movie. Keep that in mind. Okay, we don't have to feel happy in order for the movie to be perfect. Okay, and then finally, I think there was one more. The only man that did the right thing was the grandpa. That was Justin's critique. Fair critique. But again, going back to what I said about like therapy, or about the grandpa saying like, I need to lay off the red meat or whatever. Like, I don't agree with a lot of things that this movie proposes as solutions or a good lifestyle or good living or whatever. But again, I don't think that diminishes from his perfection, because I can take myself out of my own opinions and just let the story tell itself, and then be like, well, that's what the writer believes. Then again, it wasn't heavy-handed. It wasn't like pushing an agenda. It wasn't annoying. It was just something I disagree with, and I'm just like, that's fine. If it moves the story along, like, it's a great story. And then the last one was remote drop. Maybe there were a couple of scenes where, like, if I'd seen the movie and I see the scene pop up, I probably wouldn't drop the remote. Like, no, I think, okay, so being completely fair, and this is my final point, I think it does. I mean, I was going to say, like, Rodrigo having his fits at night. I didn't like that part of the movie. It was like the tension in the marriage. It wasn't like everything's falling apart. But again, I'm supposed to feel that. I'm supposed to not like that. I'm supposed to be rooting for Javier, and he lets me down. That's part of the story. That's part of the movie. It did what it was supposed to do. And that is criteria for a perfect movie. It did what it was supposed to do. It took you on the journey through the highs and lows, and boy, peaks and valleys, like Justin showed on the chart. It's all over the place. And the narrator, the girl narrating, the granddaughter, narrating the whole movie, actually says that, where she's like, I think you've learned by now that you can't expect any heroes from the story. Or she said something like that, because they kept letting us down. That's part of the story. And it all has a nice wrapping around with a nice bow at the end when Rodrigo meets Dylan. They get together and they live happily ever after, because of all the weird different components that were spinning around in their lives and just so happen to merge. Okay, there are my rebuttals. Let's go back in the same order. All right, starting with Chase. And we're casting our votes, right? So give me a rebuttal to my rebuttal and then cast your vote. Let's go.
I don't have a rebuttal to your rebuttal. I think you've answered the questions. And ultimately, yeah, I think, you know, I think my biggest thing or response would be to Alan on the rewatchability. And I think it's just at this point in my life, with everything that's happening with my extended family, I can't do that again. Not for a while. Like, I need to just process. So, right. And so that's why I said I probably couldn't watch it for the next 2 or 3 years. But after that, I might be able to rewatch it on a faster cadence. Anyways, and I think Justin probably similar, and Brownie similar, where it's just where life is, where life itself is with us. So anyways, no, I appreciate everybody's input. It's a heavy movie, right? It's a drama. I would almost put it almost at a tragedy. but it kind of does have a nice little resolution. So I wouldn't put it so much in the like Greek tragedy where everybody dies and then that's the end. But lots of death, lots of destruction of relationships, and then ultimately the message is keep pressing forward. Right, life has its ups and downs. Keep pressing forward, and with that, I vote yay.
All right, who's next? Alan? You?
Yeah, I'm up. So your a rebuttal to your rebuttal, I don't really have. I mean, I was digging deep to find problems with this movie, and that's as far as I got. Like it, not a big deal, and they weren't breaking points for me in the movie. It just the child acting took me out of the moment just for a minute, and then as I was going through just thinking about this conversation, I was like, what could I say bothered me? And Olivia Wilde, I was like, maybe it just looks like she has a pillow under her belly. Again, not a big deal. And I guess the only thing that I'll add is that, right, Bo, I think you were talking about, so the alternate storylines, like when him and Abby are in bed together and they're having that little playful back and forth about Bob Dylan, and then he retells the stories like, maybe I was just being a creep, maybe I was just being a jerk, maybe I was being all these things, and they replay it again and they show it like they say the exact same words, and then but the tone is completely different. And so what I really liked about that, to kind of maybe just add a little bit to what Bo was saying and counter a little bit what Browning was saying, or not counter, but push back on what Browning was saying, is that he acknowledged, and again, this was part of the thesis of life itself, and he acknowledged that that he viewed her in maybe not the most accurate way. And so he even says that in his therapy. He's like, you don't know her. I'm just telling you this from my perspective. I could have been a complete, whatever to her. And so I thought was actually brilliant storytelling, because you only have one side, and that's what we're allowed to see. And so that brings you along for the ride and makes you part of the overall element as a participant in the story. It drew me in, and I really like that. Anyway, all that to say, I think that is a perfect movie. Well done. Well, good choice.
All right, Brownie, let me have it. What did I miss?
No rebuttal besides the fact that I now know you support passion like Jeffrey Dahmer. So that's a little bit concerning. I still love you, still friends with you, but now I know.
Unbelievable.
No rebuttal. I'm with it. I think it's a perfect movie. Surprise.
What?
Yeah. I think you brought up a lot of really good points. I think, like you said, you don't have to walk away from the movie feeling like it, all sunshine and rainbows for it to be a perfect movie. I thought you brought up a lot of really good points on that. I thought Drew brought in a lot of really great points too. And yeah, I do think it's a perfect movie. Now with that being said, again, I'm probably not going to go back and go watch it anytime soon. But I know, Drew, I'm sorry. But, I think I would go back and go watch it. I would just need some time. And, maybe that'll make me fall in love with the movie even more. But yeah, I'm thumbs up. Perfect movie.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, Justin. I know you've got some pushback to my pushback.
You guys, we had an extra week. I tried to rewatch this movie 4 times, and I couldn't do it. I literally was like, all right, no, you got to give it one more chance. And I would go to Amazon Prime, and I'd be like, no, I can't. No. My brain is like, hell no. Because I think it might just be a little too close to home, and it's just always going to be that way. And so the other rebuttal I'm going to have is, I wish the rest of the movie was like Act 1, where the unreliable narrator showed a bunch of different things, and maybe I was just hoping for more at the end to redeem how awful that first act ended. And I never got over the hump. And for that reason, I went through all the lists, and I was about half perfect movie, half not, as far as the criteria. Entertainment, about half. Moved, absolutely. Was I impressed with the movie? Act 1, yes, up to a point. And then Act 2 and 3, not really. I didn't feel like they explored what they started. Good story. Mostly, I did like the end, and I liked the beginning, but the middle was middling to me. Was it a remote drop? I cannot rewatch this movie. No matter how hard I try, I don't think I'm ever coming back to it. And therefore, for those reasons, I'm out. I think nobody is surprised about this. But was it well done, well acted, well directed, well written, re-dialogable? Absolutely. So I'm not offended that everybody else liked it. But I could use a lot of less bleep face in my life.
What's bleak face?
Bleep face.
Oh, bleep. Gotcha. Yeah. Fair enough, Justin. Appreciate your fair analysis and your honesty and your resistance to peer pressure. Applauded and noted. And Drew, give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm going to be super short. I think everybody knows where I stand. I think it's a perfect movie. The only things that I would say is I was maybe a little bit under, but I was in the same mindset of not ever revisiting this movie ever again the first time I watched it. So I know that you're saying I'll rewatch it, but in a year or 2 years, like I need some time. Trust me, you can, now that all of like the big surprises are known, I'm telling you, you can watch it a lot sooner than you think you can. Part of the problem with the movie, of the rewatchability of the movie, is it's very heavy. And so when you first watch it, you have these feelings like I can sympathize with you guys when you're like, man, it is just, I don't know if I can revisit it that fast. I get it. I felt the same way, but you'll be able to trust me when I say you can revisit it a lot faster than you think. Give it a month, give it 2 months, and then throw it on. Like the surprise factor is gone. And so now you can focus on other things rather than sitting back in your chair, grabbing your head and like with your jaw dropped and you miss, 3 to 5 minutes because you're like, hold on, I still haven't processed what just happened. Like that was insane. How did we even get to that point while all these other things are happening? Now that you know what's happening, you can pay attention to other pieces of the story, and the middle won't feel so middling to you because you'll be able to follow the storyline without such a large shock factor. My jaw still dropped when he shot himself because I was so entrenched and so like in love with watching the movie, and I was just glued to the TV, and I was like, oh, I forgot. Like, when is it happening? Bam! And I was like, whoa! Oh, okay. Well, there it is. And then I was able to just immediately get back up and keep going with the story. One of the big critiques I saw that people didn't like about it was something somebody said where they're like, that is just so unrealistic. That would never happen. That boy met that girl, that boy. And to those people, I say, stop watching movies. Okay? Because if that's your critique, like that is the dumbest critique. It could never happen, especially when it's put into a movie so eloquently as this one, so circular as this one. 100% perfect movie.
Just a case in point, this could never happen. It actually I'm living it. Charlotte's dad passed away when she was in 1999 from it was diabetes, and he had a heart attack. So at 13, she lost her dad. And then I lost my dad in 2008. I met her in 2009. And she's like, my dad passed away. And I'm like, mine did too. And she's like, you know, like in her mind, she told me later, she's like, shut up, you know, you're stealing my thunder, you're just making things up. And then it turns out that we had a lot in common after that, and it was actually a poignant moment. So things like these do happen, and that's why I can give this movie some grace, even though I can't watch it ever again.
Appreciate all the feedback from you guys. And again, Justin, trying to be sensitive to your situation. I will say one of my favorite parts about this movie, and again, this is completely detached from your situation, just from my perspective. When I first saw it with Natalie, with my wife, and he shoots himself in the head, I remember, I'm pretty sure we all did, right? Because you're getting attached to the character of Will. Like, he's really likable, you know, the bah humbug, and he points to the guy and the guy nods. Like, he's a likable dude, even in the throes of depression. And that's just, I think, a testament to Oscar Isaac's acting ability. Like, he's so likable. And so you're rooting for him. And so when that scene happens and he shoots himself in the head, and I first saw that, I was like, oh my. And then, like Drew said, it kind of lets you linger for like 5 or 6 seconds in the room after the therapist screams and leaves. And you're just there and you're like, oh my. One really fun part about rewatching this movie is if you rewatch it with other people, seeing them do that. Like, it is so, like, because nobody expects it and comes out of left field. And the person that you think the movie's going to be about ends himself in the first act. And it's like, and so when I showed it to Drew and and our parents and the rest, like, was it just us? I think it was just you and your wife and mom and dad, right? And same thing. I remember when that scene was happening, I was like leaning back in the couch. I'm like, wait for it. And then boom. And everybody in the room was like, oh, is that real? Did he really? Like, man, if that doesn't make you feel something, that's incredible, right? Anyway, so just another, just to back Drew up, the rewatchability is really good. At your own pace. You don't have to do it soon, maybe in a year or two, but rewatch it. It's good. Okay, awesome. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 votes yes. We've got 1 no, which means out of the 8 movie men, this is already going to be a perfect movie. But I will still get the votes from Callum and Zane, just so we can loop them into this conversation. So I'll do what I can to splice their answers into this video.
Firstly, wanted to give my apologies. Oh, just woke up the baby. My apologies for missing the last podcast. My life has been busy. Life itself is busy. And I wasn't able to make it. I've just sat down and watched Life Itself. And I know that we try and have no expectations, but when I see the title, the genre of drama, it's very easy for me to just pass it by. And I was close to being positive that I was going to say that I wasn't going to like this movie. I'm pretty sure my wife has said to me multiple times as we've been searching for movies to watch, oh, let's watch this, because it looks like a love story, it's a drama. And I'm like, no. Let's watch something else, something with a little bit more action. Gosh dang it, Bo. It's a perfect movie. Again, that genre isn't my usually my cup of tea. And I probably wouldn't, if I find myself alone wanting to watch a movie, I probably wouldn't want to put it on. But it's the kind of movie, this is literally just finished watching it. I'm sitting and reflecting and I'm thinking, this is the kind of movie where I want to tell people about it. I want to tell people the meaning behind it, and I want to sit down and watch it with them. So, yeah, really good movie, amazing acting, amazing how they connected both stories, amazing how they have all this character development with the people that you are initially learning about, and then all of a sudden, like, twists and turns in their life drama, and then you're starting to learn about another family. And I was kind of worried at that switch. I'm like, well, I'm not going to care about these ones because I've invested so much time in the other people. But they've done it very, very well and able to get you to immediately, in a way, immediately build a quick relationship and a quick between you and the Spaniards. So, excellent choice, excellent movie. Can't believe I've never watched it before. Great choice, Bo. Perfect movie is my vote. So is that 6-1? And then I'm looking forward to the next one.
And let's just go ahead and end this with Alan. Let's go ahead and end this with Alan announcing the movie he's going to nominate as a perfect movie. And whatever you want to tell us about the movie, Alan, maybe we've seen it, maybe we haven't, but give us, and again, I gave you like that one expectation spoiler. It's a drama and it's rated R. You can give us whatever heads up or whatever feedback, however you want us mentally to be going into this movie. The floor is yours.
All right. So it's not an easy thing trying to pick a movie, right? And I'm going into this knowing that I've got a second option when we come back around. But I am picking a movie that has consistently been in my top, like, probably 3 movies since I've ever seen it. And I've watched, like, every time a new movie comes in, I'm like, that's making it top 10. And I rack and stack, I'm like, this movie still ends up at the top. And so this is the movie we're going to watch. I am pretty sure everybody's seen it, but we are going to talk about it. And the movie is The Last Samurai. So I really wanted to look at this from the perspective of the movies men, and I want to look at it from the perspective of grading it in the criteria. I think that there's a ton to talk about as far as our list of everything that we've talked about and kind of come up with so far. And so I really want to put this movie up against that. And I'm going to, that's my nomination. My nomination is that The Last Samurai is a perfect movie, and I will be happy to defend that next time we come together.
Perfect. All right. The Last Samurai. So let's watch it. We'll tell the other boys. And with that, thank you, gentlemen, for showing up for this conversation. Our next perfect movie quest will be The Last Samurai in 2 weeks. I'll see you guys then. Peace out.